Imagine a San Antonio gym, early morning, 5:30 a.m.,
Oh, yeah.
and among the regulars is Andreen McDonald, successful businesswoman, devoted mom, picture of health. But then on March 1st, 2019, she's just gone.
Wow.
Vanished. Never skipped her workout, didn't show up for work, and her car's at home. Purse, keys untouched. But her phone, missing.
Oh, that's creepy.
Just like Andreen. Welcome to CrimePod, Castle's Twisted Crime series. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Yeah.
So the police get to the McDonald residence, right?
Right.
And what seems like a missing person case takes a turn.
Yeah, it wasn't just that she was missing. It was the little details that started popping up at the scene, like blood stains. And I don't mean like a little smudge, enough to make you think something was seriously wrong.
Oh, wow.
And then there's this burn pile in the backyard. And guess what they find in the ashes?
What?
A zipper. Like partially melted. Turned out to be from one of Andreen's blouses.
A burn pile, blood stains. I mean, this is like nightmare stuff. Did the police have any idea who might be involved at this point?
Well, this is where it gets even creepier. They found a torn-up receipt from Lowe's, dated March 2nd, the day after Andreen disappeared. And get this, a shovel, an axe, gas cans, heavy-duty trash bags, glove.
Okay, now that's a shopping list that sends chills down your spine. Any way to connect those purchases to anyone?
Security footage from Lowe's showed the person making those purchases. It was Andreen's husband, Major Andre McDonald.
This just adds a whole other layer to the situation. They seems like, I don't know, a power couple from the outside, right?
Right.
Successful business owners, beautiful daughter, social life. But what was their relationship really like behind closed doors?
Well, social media might have shown a happy picture, but there were cracks. Andreen had told friends about some tension, growing tension, in her marriage. She described Andre as, how do I put this, resentful of her success and independence. Especially when it came to their business. They had this multi-million-dollar assisted living business.
How do you call?
Starlight Home.
Okay, so we have a missing wife, a possibly jealous husband, and a shopping list that screams foul play. Were there any other hints of trouble in their marriage?
There's more. Andreen had reconnected with her first love from Jamaica, a businessman named Owen Hall.
Oh, wow.
They even had matching tattoos, the initial A on her hand and a date on her wrist. It matched a tattoo that Owen had. Turns out Andre found this on social media.
Oh,
It seems like that just fueled his anger.
yeah.
And the feeling of betrayal.
So not only was there tension over her success, but also a rekindled romance from her past. Things were definitely more complicated than they first seemed. Did Andre ever confront Andreen about this?
It's not clear if they had a face-to-face about it, but remember those weird text messages Andre sent to Andreen about an obit?
Yeah.
Obit was actually a misspelling of Owen Hall's name. Looks like he knew about this reconnection and was really bothered by it.
Definitely adds to the suspicion. And to think, they were projecting this picture-perfect life to the world. Was there anything else that hinted at danger for Andreen?
Chillingly, yes. Andreen had this feeling, like a premonition, that something bad might happen. She told her friends, if anything happens to me, Andre did it.
That's bone-chilling. To think she had a feeling about her own safety, it makes you wonder if there were any past incidents that might have caused that fear. How did Andre react right after Andreen disappeared? Anything about his behavior that seemed off?
Definitely. When the police asked him about where Andreen was, he lied. Said she was at a hospital, but there was no record of her being there. Then he's caught buying a handgun.
A handgun. That's a big deal. Did he say why?
He said it was for self-defense, but given everything else going on, it made people think maybe he was going to hurt himself or someone else.
So we have a missing wife, a husband acting strange, and a trail of disturbing evidence. Sounds like the police had a lot to figure out. What happened next?
The search for Andreen went on for months. Volunteers searched everywhere, hoping for a miracle. But then, 133 days after she vanished, they found something terrible.
This is where it gets really tough.
A farmer, working his land, just 6 miles from the McDonald home, he found skeletal remains, and the DNA tests confirmed it. It was Andreen.
After months of not knowing, her family finally got an answer, but not the one they wanted. It must have been devastating. Did they arrest Andre for murder right away after they found her?
Not immediately. They had a lot of evidence against him, but they couldn't prove he actually killed her. But that Lowe's receipt, that was key. They arrested him for tampering with evidence.
This case is like a puzzle, with all these twists and turns. We've got a husband who seems super suspicious, but no hard proof of murder. What happened when the case went to trial?
Well, the trial of Andre McDonald, that was a huge deal in San Antonio. Everyone was waiting to hear what really happened to Andreen.
I can imagine. Was Andre going to stick with his story that he was innocent, or would he finally tell his side of the story after all this time?
Well, just a few days before the trial, Andre did something surprising. He confessed to his mother, said Andreen's death was an accident. And then he did something even more unexpected. He called Andreen's mother and sister and told them his version of what happened that night. For the first time.
Wait, he confessed to Andreen's family, but he was still going to say he was not guilty in court. That's a strange plan. What was his explanation for what happened that night?
Andre said that on the night Andreen disappeared, they had a big fight. He found out she started a new business without telling him, and things got really heated at the tax preparer's office. The argument continued when they got home, and he claimed it got so bad that Andreen spat in his face.
So he's saying Andreen was the one who started the physical fight. Does that fit with what people knew about her and their relationship?
That was a big question during the trial. The prosecution said that even though Andreen was strong and independent, she wasn't the type to get physically aggressive. They said Andre was controlling and jealous, and they thought he wanted to stay in control.
Sounds like they were trying to show that this wasn't just a one-time thing.
Yeah.
What did Andre say happened next? Did he admit to hitting her?
He did. Andre said that during the fight, he pushed Andreen, they bumped heads, and she fell and hit her head. He admitted to kicking her twice while she was on the ground, but he insisted that he never meant to kill her.
So he's saying it was an accident. A horrible accident because they were fighting. Did the prosecution believe that?
Not at all. Remember all that stuff he bought at Lowe's? The prosecution said that what Andre did after this supposed accident shows something much darker. He didn't call 911. Instead, he got rid of Andreen's body in a field, took off her clothes, and burned them. Does that sound like something a husband would do if he accidentally killed his wife?
Definitely makes you wonder what he was really thinking. Sounds more like he was trying to hide a crime, not dealing with the terrible accident. What did the defense lawyer say about that?
They said that Andre was panicking and scared, that he wasn't thinking straight and made a bunch of bad decisions in the heat of the moment because he was in shock and confused.
But wouldn't anyone, even if they were panicking, still call for help? The prosecution must have had a good response to that. What else did they use to try to prove Andre was guilty?
They brought up something really disturbing. Andre admitted that he went back to the field a few days later. With a hammer and gasoline, he poured gasoline on Andreen's body, set it on fire, and then hit her over and over with the hammer, mostly on her face and neck.
That's horrifying. He went back to hurt her body even more. Why would he do that?
When they asked him why, Andre just said, "I guess I was still angry." Those words sent chills down everyone's spine. The prosecution used this to say that this wasn't just about panic, it was about rage, control, and wanting to cause pain, even after death.
Those words, "I guess I was still angry," are really telling. It's hard to imagine any situation where that kind of brutality could be excused as a reaction to an accidental death. How did the defense lawyers try to explain that away?
They kept saying that Andre was acting out of fear. They even tried to make it seem like Andre, a military officer, was the victim, saying that Andreen was physically stronger and attacked him first.
Wait, they were trying to make Andre seem like the victim? Did the jury believe that?
The jury took a long time to decide. They really struggled with the case, with both sides of the story, and with all the disturbing evidence. In the end, they couldn't all agree on whether it was murder or not.
So we have a confession, but the motive's not clear. Signs of a violent struggle, but no agreement on whether it was intentional. What happens when a jury can't decide?
In this case, the judge gave them what's called an Allen charge. He basically told them to go back and look at the evidence again and try their best to come to a decision. He was encouraging them to think it over again and see if they could agree.
That's a huge moment in any trial. Did the Allen charge change anything to the jury?
It did. After talking it over more, they came back with a decision. But it wasn't a simple answer like everyone was expecting. They said Andre was not guilty of murder, but they did find him guilty of manslaughter.
Wow, not guilty of murder, but guilty of manslaughter. It almost seems like they contradict each other. Why did they decide that?
It seems like they couldn't agree on whether Andre planned to kill Andreen, but they did think he was responsible for her death because of how reckless and careless he was during the fight. It was like they were saying that the fight got out of control and ended tragically, but they weren't sure if Andre meant to kill her in the first place.
So they were acknowledging that someone died, but also saying there's a difference between planning to kill someone and doing something reckless that leads to their death. What was Andre's sentence for manslaughter? How did Andreen's family feel about the verdict?
The sentence, the reactions, and the lasting impact of this case, they're all part of this tragic story. And that's where we'll pick up in part 2 of our deep dive into the disappearance and death of Andreen McDonald. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to CrimePod Castle and our YouTube channel. So the manslaughter conviction, right, that meant he could get up to 20 years in prison.
Right.
A lot less than if they'd found him guilty of murder, which would have been life in prison.
Yeah, a big difference.
And in the end, Andre McDonald did get the maximum, 20 years for killing his wife.
20 years. For a life lost, a family shattered. It's hard to even grasp the pain of that. How did Andreen's family react when they heard the sentence?
They were heartbroken. They felt like the punishment didn't really match what he did. Like 20 years could never be enough for the way Andreen was taken from them. Andreen's sister, Cindy, she was really angry. She just didn't understand how the jury could hear all the awful details about what happened, especially how he treated Andreen's body after she died, and still give him a sentence that seems so light.
It makes sense that they'd feel like justice wasn't served. No amount of time can truly heal that kind of loss. What about Andre? Did he seem sorry at all during the trial?
He did say he was sorry to Andreen's family when he was on the stand, but a lot of people thought it didn't sound real, especially after not saying anything for so long and then doing all those things to cover up what happened.
Yeah.
Some people even thought that confessing at the last minute was just a trick to try to get the jury to go easy on him.
It's always tough to tell if someone's really sorry, especially in a serious situation like this. Even if he was truly sorry, saying sorry can never bring back what's gone.
What about Andreen's daughter, Elena? How has she been handling all of this?
Elena was just a little girl, 7 years old, when her mom disappeared.
Oh, gosh.
Now she lives with her grandmother, Maureen, and her aunt, Cindy. They're giving her a loving home. They're trying their best to protect her from all the awful details of the case. But they also want her to remember her mom.
It's so sad to think about a child losing both parents in such a horrible way. Elena must be incredibly strong to go through something like that so young. What about Andre's mother, Jackie? How has she dealt with her son being convicted?
Jackie has always supported her son through everything. She insists he's innocent. She truly believes he was defending himself and that it was an accident. She's talked about the case publicly, saying she's 100% behind Andre and that he would never murder anyone. So we have a family torn apart, a little girl who lost her mother in a terrible way, and a mother who can't believe her son could do something so awful. It really shows how these crimes affect so many people, not just those directly involved. How has this case affected the people of San Antonio?
Andreen's death really shook everyone in San Antonio. She was well loved in the community. She was known for being generous, a successful businesswoman, and always willing to help others. People really miss her. Her story has become a reminder that domestic violence can happen anywhere, even in families that seem perfect from the outside.
This case has really stayed with me. It's made me think more deeply about how complicated relationships can be, how devastating violence is, and how important it is to pay attention to even the smallest signs of abuse. What do you think is the most important thing we can learn from this tragedy?
I think it shows us how crucial it is to listen to people when they tell us they're afraid, and to believe them. Andreen told her friends she was worried about her safety, and sadly, she was right. We all need to be more aware of the signs of domestic abuse, even if they seem small, and be ready to offer support and help to people who might be in danger.
You're so right. We can't ignore the warning signs, and we have to speak up for those who are too scared to speak for themselves or who are stuck in abusive relationships. Andreen's story is a powerful reminder that domestic violence can happen to anyone, no matter how successful or well-off they are. It can be hidden behind what seems like a normal life.
Exactly. Andreen's case proves that domestic violence isn't limited to certain types of people or relationships. It can happen to anyone, and it's everyone's responsibility to break the silence and stop the stigma around abuse. We need to create a society where victims feel safe asking for help and where people are ready to step in and do something if they see abuse happening.
This deep dive into Andreen McDonald's disappearance and death has been a really emotional journey. So many twists and turns, so many questions left unanswered. It makes us want to look deeper, listen more carefully, and act with more courage and kindness. If you or someone you know is dealing with domestic violence, remember, you're not alone. There is help out there. Talk to a friend, a family member, or reach out to an organization that supports victims of abuse. And don't forget to follow and subscribe to CrimePod Castle and our YouTube channel.
So, after the verdict, the big question was the sentence.
Right, what would justice look like in this case?
Manslaughter, right? The maximum sentence for that is 20 years.
Right.
A far cry from the life sentence if he'd been convicted of murder. And in the end, Andre McDonald got the maximum, 20 years for the death of his wife.
20 years for a life lost. A family forever changed. It's difficult to even grasp that kind of pain. How did Andreen's family react to the sentencing?
Devastation. They just felt like the punishment, it didn't really match the crime, 20 years could never really make up for the brutal way Andreen was taken from them. Andreen's sister, Cindy, she was particularly outspoken. She couldn't understand how the jury could reconcile the horrific details of the case, especially the desecration of Andreen's remains, with what felt like such a lenient sentence.
It's understandable that they would feel a profound sense of injustice. No amount of time can ever truly heal the wounds left by such a loss. What about Andre? Did he express any remorse during the trial?
He did apologize to Andreen's family during his testimony, but many felt it lacked sincerity, especially given his years of silence and the calculated nature of his actions.
It's always difficult to discern true remorse, especially in these types of situations.
Right.
But even if it were genuine, an apology can never bring back what's been lost. What about Andreen's daughter, Elena? How has this tragedy impacted her young life?
Elena was only 7 years old when her mother vanished.
Gosh, so young.
She's being raised now by her grandmother, Maureen, and her aunt, Cindy. They're providing a loving and supportive home. They're doing everything they can to shield her from the really harsh realities of the case, while still honoring the memory of her mother.
It's heartbreaking to think about a child losing both parents in such a traumatic way. I can only imagine the strength and resilience Elena must possess to navigate such a profound loss at such a young age. What about Andre's mother, Jackie? How has she coped with her son's conviction?
Jackie has stood by her son throughout this whole ordeal. She maintains his innocence and believes his claims of self-defense and accident.
Wow.
She has even spoken publicly about the case, expressing her unwavering support for Andre and her belief that he is not a murderer.
So we have a family torn apart, a young girl left to grapple with the unimaginable loss of her mother, and a mother who refuses to believe her son could be capable of such brutality. It's a stark reminder that the impact of these crimes extends far beyond the courtroom. What lasting impact has this case had on the San Antonio community?
Andreen's death sent shockwaves through San Antonio. She was a beloved member of the community, known for her generosity, her entrepreneurial spirit, and her dedication to helping others.
Yeah, she's just like an amazing person.
Her absence is deeply felt, and her story has become a cautionary tale, a reminder that domestic violence can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly perfect lives.
This case has certainly left a lasting impression on me. It's prompted a deeper reflection on the complexities of relationships, the devastating consequences of violence, and the importance of recognizing the signs of abuse, which are often very subtle. What stands out to you as the most crucial takeaway from this tragic story?
For me, it really underscores the importance of listening to and believing those who confide in us about their fears and concerns. Andreen had expressed anxiety about her safety to her friends, and tragically, her premonition proved true. We must all be more attuned to the signs of domestic abuse, no matter how subtle, and be willing to offer support and resources to those who might be trapped in dangerous situations.
You're absolutely right. We can't afford to ignore the red flags, and we must be advocates for those who may be silenced by fear or trapped in abusive relationships. Andreen's story is a powerful reminder that domestic violence can happen to anyone, regardless of social standing or success. It often hides in plain sight, disguised by a facade of normalcy.
Exactly. And in Andreen's case, it shatters the misconception that domestic violence only occurs in certain socioeconomic groups or within specific relationship dynamics. It can affect anyone, and it's our collective responsibility to challenge the silence and stigma surrounding abuse.
This deep dive into the disappearance and death of Andreen McDonald has been an emotional journey, filled with twists, turns, and lingering questions. It's a story that compels us to look beyond the surface, to listen more intently, and to act with greater courage and compassion. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please remember that you are not alone. There are resources available to help. Reach out to a trusted friend, family member, or seek support from organizations dedicated to helping victims of abuse. And that brings us to the end of this deep dive. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to CrimePod Castle and our YouTube channel.